My name is Brian, and 8 years ago, I walked into a private investigator's office for the first time in my life. I never imagined I'd be that guy, the husband who needed to hire someone to follow his own wife. But there I was, my hands shaking as I sat across from the detective, trying to find the words to explain how my life had fallen apart. I remember you, the detective said, when I showed up at his office again last month. 8 years had passed, but he recognized me immediately. I suppose you don't forget cases like mine. Let me take you back to the beginning. I was 25 when I met Jessica. She was stunning, the kind of woman who could have been a fashion model. She actually did some catalog work for online shopping sites. Everyone said I was lucky to have her. And I believed them. Maybe I believed them too much. We got married young, maybe too young. When Jessica got pregnant just a year into our marriage, she had to give up her modeling dreams. She was only 23, and I could see the disappointment in her eyes every time. She looked at herself in the mirror, her body changing with the pregnancy. I felt terrible about it. I thought if I gave her everything she wanted, if I worked harder and made more money, maybe she could forgive me for taking away her dreams. So I did. I worked overtime at the research lab where I was employed. I was making decent money, not rich, but comfortable for a young family. Jessica wanted designer handbags. I bought them. She wanted spa days. I paid for them. She wanted to go on luxury vacations to resort hotels. I took out loans. Whatever made her happy, I tried to provide. Looking back now, I realize I was trying to buy her love, trying to make up for something that wasn't even my fault. You can't buy love. I learned that the hard way. Our son Tommy was born in the fall. He was beautiful, 10 fingers, 10 toes, my eyes, her nose. For about a week, I thought maybe things would be okay. Maybe motherhood would settle her down, give her purpose, make her happy. I'd see her holding him in the hospital, and I'd think, this is it. This is when everything changes for the better. I was so wrong. When Tommy was just 2 months old, Jessica started going out. At first, it was just once a week. I need a break, she'd say. Being a mom is exhausting. I need some time for myself. I understood, or at least I tried to. Being a new parent is hard, and I thought maybe she just needed to decompress. My mother helped out with the baby when she could, and I rearranged my work schedule to be home more. I'd come home from a 10-hour shift at the lab to find Tommy crying in his crib, unchanged and unfed, while Jessica was getting ready to go out. But once a week became twice a week, then 3 times. Then she was barely home at all. She'd leave our infant son crying in his crib while she went out with friends, or at least that's what she told me. She'd stay out until 2, 3, sometimes 4 in the morning. When I'd call her, she wouldn't answer. When I'd text, she'd reply hours later with vague excuses. Phone died. Didn't hear it. Was too loud at the club. I started noticing other things, too. Credit card bills for restaurants I'd never been to. Charges from hotels in the city. When I'd ask about them, she'd get defensive. I needed a break. Is that a crime? You don't understand what it's like being stuck at home all day with the baby. But she wasn't stuck at home. She was never home. The worst night, the night I'll never forget, Tommy had a high fever. He was only 14 months old, burning up at 103 degrees, crying for his mother. I was frantic, trying to get his temperature down with cool washcloths, calling Jessica over and over. The phone just rang and rang. I must have called 30 times. Then, around midnight, her phone accidentally called me back. You know how sometimes phones do that. When they're in a pocket or purse, I could hear everything. Who's that? A man's voice asked. A voice I didn't recognize. My husband, Jessica said, her voice casual, almost bored, like she was talking about what to order for dinner. Aren't you going to answer? No, let him wait. He's probably just worried about the baby again. What if something's wrong? Answer it and then take it off, Jessica said. I could hear rustling like she was picking up the phone. Then I heard her laugh. This is actually kind of fun, isn't it? He has no idea. I heard them laughing, while our son was burning up with fever at home, while I was scared out of my mind that something was seriously wrong. I stood there in our living room, holding our sick baby, listening to my wife with another man. That's when I knew. That's when I really knew. It wasn't just going out with friends. It wasn't just needing space. She was having an affair. Maybe more than one. The next morning, I called the detective. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial the number. The investigation took 3 weeks. 3 long weeks where I had to pretend everything was normal, had to smile and nod when Jessica would tell me she was going out again. 3 weeks of photographic evidence, documented meetings, credit card receipts from hotels I'd paid for but never stayed in. Every day, the detective would send me updates. And every day, my heart broke a little more. The detective showed me the photos. Jessica had expensive restaurants with different men, not just one man, but multiple men over the course of those 3 weeks. Jessica checking into hotels in the middle of the afternoon on days when she told me she was going shopping or meeting friends. Jessica at bars, at clubs, at luxury spas. She wasn't just having an affair, she was living a completely double life. But the worst part, the debt. While I was working overtime to support our family, Jessica had taken out loans in both our names. Credit cards I didn't know existed, personal loans from the bank. All of it went to pay off her parents' debts. They'd gotten in over their heads with gambling, it turned out. More went to buy designer clothes, jewelry, handbags. Even more went to book luxury hotel stays, expensive dinners, gifts for the men she was seeing. We were $80,000 in debt, and I had no idea. $80,000. That's more than I made in a year at the research lab. How did she even get these loans? I asked the detective. She forged your signature on some of them, he said. On others, she used your information. You could press criminal charges if you wanted to. I didn't want to. I just wanted it to be over. When I confronted her, I expected tears, apologies, something. Instead, she was cold, almost defiant. I was unhappy, she said, as if that explained everything. I gave up my career for you and this baby. I deserve to have some happiness, too. What about Tommy? I asked, my voice breaking. What about our son? What about me? She just shrugged. He has you, doesn't he? You're good with him. Better than I am. And you have your work. You don't need me. I'm your husband. Tommy's your son. How can you say these things? I never wanted to be a mother, she said, and her voice was so flat, so emotionless. I got pregnant, and you were so happy. And everyone expected me to be happy, too. But I wasn't. I felt trapped. Every day, I felt more and more trapped. So you cheated? You stole from us? You abandoned your baby? I did what I had to do to survive, she said. And then she walked out of the room. We divorced within 6 months. The judge ordered her to pay $500 a month in child support. Not much, considering she was Tommy's mother and I had sole custody, but something. The judge also ordered her to pay half the marital debt. But her lawyer argued she had no assets, no income, no way to pay. So I got stuck with most of it. Jessica moved out, and for a little while, I thought maybe we could both move on. I'd raise Tommy, she'd live her life, and we'd just stay out of each other's way. I'd work extra hours to pay down the debt. Tommy and I would be okay. We'd make it work. For about 2 years, things were stable. She paid the child support, usually late, and sometimes in dribs and drabs, $50 here, $100 there, but she paid. She'd occasionally call to talk to Tommy, though the conversations were awkward and brief. Then gradually the payments stopped coming altogether. First she'd skip a month, then 2, then 6. The phone calls stopped too. I called. I texted. Nothing. I went to her parents' house. They said they hadn't seen her in months. I didn't believe them, but what could I do? Break down their door? Tommy started asking about his mom. Why doesn't mommy come see me? He'd ask. Doesn't she love me anymore? Did I do something wrong? What do you say to that? How do you explain to a 7-year-old that his mother just left, that she chose her own happiness over him, that some people just aren't capable of being parents? I tried everything through the legal system. I filed for enforcement of child support. After months of paperwork and court dates, I finally got what's called a commitment order, basically. The judge said if Jessica didn't pay, she could be jailed for contempt of court. But here's the thing, I had to find her first. And Jessica had disappeared completely. Her phone number changed. Her address changed. She wasn't working anywhere I could find, at least not under her real name. She'd just vanished into thin air, and with her went any hope of getting the child support Tommy desperately needed. By this point, I was struggling, really struggling. Tommy needed Brace's $3,000. He needed new shoes every few months because he was growing so fast. He wanted to play Little League, but I could barely afford the registration fee. Meanwhile, Jessica owed me over $40,000 in back child support. $40,000 that could have paid for his braces, his sports, his school supplies, everything he needed. Then 3 years ago, I got sick. Really sick. Stage 3 stomach cancer. That's what the doctor told me on a Tuesday afternoon in October. I remember because Tommy had a math test the next day, and I was supposed to help him study that evening. I've been having stomach pains for months, but I'd ignored them. I couldn't afford to take time off work, couldn't afford the copays for doctor visits. By the time I finally went in, the cancer had spread. Instead of helping Tommy study, I sat in the oncologist's office, listening to words like chemotherapy and radiation and survival rates and 5-year prognosis. The doctor was talking, but all I could think was, what happens to Tommy if I die? He's only 9 years old. He has no mother. My parents are elderly. My sister lives across the country with her own family. What happens to my son? I started treatment immediately. The chemo made me so sick I could barely stand. I'd throw up for hours after each treatment. I lost 40 pounds in 2 months. My hair fell out. Some days I couldn't get out of bed, but I had to keep going. I had to keep working, or at least try to. Tommy needed me. He needed food, shelter, stability. He needed his father to be strong, even when I felt like I was dying. The medical bills piled up fast. Even with insurance, the copays and medications cost thousands. I had to cut back on everything. We ate rice and beans most nights. I canceled the cable TV. I sold my car and bought an old beater that barely ran but cost half as much. I stopped heating our apartment above 62 degrees in the winter. Tommy wore 2 sweaters to school. Through all of this, Jessica paid nothing. Not a single dollar. Not even a phone call to check on Tommy, to see how he was doing, to ask if he needed anything. Before we continue with Brian's story, if you're finding this account compelling, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. These true stories take time and resources to share, and your support means everything. I'd call her when I could get through and beg. Not for me, but for Tommy. Tommy needs new shoes, I'd say. Can you send something, anything? Even $50 would help. I don't have it, she'd reply, her voice flat and uninterested. I'm broke. I filed for debt consolidation. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. There's nothing I can do. He's your son, I'd say. How can you have nothing for your own son? I have to go, she'd say, and hang up. One night, about a year ago, I finally got her on the phone again after weeks of trying. Tommy was 10 by then, old enough to understand what was happening, old enough to know his mother had abandoned him, old enough to feel the shame and rejection that comes with that. Please, I said, and I was crying. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I was desperate. Just send the $500. Tommy needs it. I need it. I'm sick, Jessica. I have cancer. I'm trying to work, but I can barely function. We need help. There was silence on the other end. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd gotten through to her. Maybe some small part of her humanity remained. I can't, Jessica finally said. I'm telling you, I don't have any money. I'm in debt consolidation. If I had it, I'd send it, but I don't. You're his mother, I said, my voice breaking. How can you do this to your own child? He cries at night asking why you don't love him. What am I supposed to tell him? Don't guilt trip me, she snapped, and now there was anger in her voice. I didn't want to be a mother in the first place. You and Tommy, you ruined my life. I had dreams. I had a career ahead of me. And I gave it all up, and for what? To be poor and miserable? No. I'm done. I'm living my own life now. You're a monster, I whispered. No, she said. I'm just honest. Most mothers won't say it, but I will. I never wanted this. And I'm not going to pretend anymore. Then she hung up. And that was the last time I heard from her for over a year. Another year passed. The cancer went into remission, thank God, but I was weak, still recovering. The treatments had taken everything out of me. I could work, but only part-time. Money was tighter than ever. Tommy was now 11, almost 12. He'd grown into a serious, quiet kid, too serious for his age. He'd stopped asking about his mother, which somehow hurt even more than when he used to ask. At least when he asked, it meant he still had hope. The back child support was now over $45,000. I had jumped through every legal hoop I could find. I'd gotten the commitment order, which meant Jessica could be arrested and jailed for non-payment. But the police said they couldn't help me. I had to locate her myself and then notify them where she was. Only then could they execute the arrest warrant. How was I supposed to do that? I was still recovering from cancer treatment. I could barely make it through a workday without needing to rest. I couldn't go traipsing around the city looking for my ex-wife. I didn't have the money to hire a private investigator again. I was stuck. That's when Tommy came to me one evening. We'd just finished dinner spaghetti again, the cheap kind from the discount grocery store. He'd been quiet all through the meal, which wasn't unusual, but there was something different about his silence that night. "Dad," he said, his voice quiet but determined, "I want to find Mom." My heart broke. "Tommy, I don't think—" "Not because I miss her," he interrupted, and his voice was hard. "I know she doesn't care about us. I figured that out a long time ago. But you need that money. For your medicine, for us. And if the court says she has to pay, then she should pay. It's not right that she gets to just run away and never face any consequences." He was 12 years old, and he sounded like he was 40. "Let me come with you," he said. "Let me help you find her. Please, Dad. I want to do this. I need to do this." I looked at my son, my brave, hurting son, and I knew I couldn't give up. Not for me, but for him. He deserved justice. He deserved to know that his father fought for him, that I never stopped fighting. So I went back to that detective's office. 8 years after my first visit, I walked through that door again, Tommy by my side this time, and asked for help one more time. The detective, let's call him Marcus, looked at me and Tommy sitting across from his desk. I could see the sympathy in his eyes, but also the hesitation. He'd helped me before 8 years ago, and he knew how these things went. "Brian," he said carefully, "tracking down deadbeat parents. It's not usually cost-effective for private investigators. It takes a lot of time, and often there's no money at the end of it anyway. These people are good at hiding assets, hiding income. Even when we find them, getting them to actually pay is another battle entirely." "I know," I said, "but I have the commitment order. If we can find her, the police can arrest her. And maybe, just maybe, she'll finally do the right thing. Or at least she'll face some consequences." Marcus sighed, looking at Tommy. My son sat up straight, trying to look older than his 12 years. He'd worn his best shirt for this meeting, and he'd combed his hair neatly. He wanted to be taken seriously. "Please, sir," Tommy said, and his voice only shook a little. "She's my mom. She owes my dad all this money, and he's been sick, and we just want what's fair. That's all. Just what's fair." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying Tommy's face. Then he nodded slowly. "All right, let's see what we can find. But I need you both to understand this might not end the way you want it to." "I know," I said, "but we have to try." The first step was locating Jessica's actual address. The address we had on file, the one from the court papers, turned out to be a rooming house for single men. When Marcus went there, the landlord laughed. "Nobody named Jessica has ever lived here," he said. "This place's men-only has been for 20 years. She'd clearly used it as a fake address to avoid being found. "It's a common trick," Marcus explained. "People who don't want to pay child support often register at these places where you don't need a formal lease, where there's no paper trail. They pay someone a small fee to use the address, but they never actually live there." We hit dead end after dead end for days. Jessica wasn't registered anywhere under her real name. She had no bank accounts we could find, no property records, no employment records. It was like she'd ceased to exist. But then, going through old mail at her fake address mail that she'd never picked up, Marcus found something promotional materials from an upscale Pilates studio in Manhattan. The kind of place that charged $200 per session, that catered to wealthy women with time and money to spare. Wait, I said, looking at the glossy mailer. She told me she was broke. She said she couldn't afford to send Tommy $500 a month. But she's doing Pilates in Manhattan? That's thousands of dollars a month just for exercise. Let me dig into this, Marcus said. Marcus started searching social media, using the Pilates studio as a starting point. He looked through their client photos, their tagged posts, their Instagram stories. And that's when we found her. Jessica wasn't hiding exactly. She was all over Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, but under a different name. She called herself Jess Love now, and she was living as an influencer, a social media influencer with tens of thousands of followers. I stared at her profile on Marcus's computer screen, feeling sick. There she was, my ex-wife, who claimed to be destitute, who said she couldn't afford to pay child support, posing in designer clothes, eating at expensive restaurants, showing off her luxury lifestyle. Her bio read, "Living my best life. Wellness advocate entrepreneur, spreading positivity and light." She had thousands of followers who commented on every post, calling her beautiful, asking where she got her clothes, wanting to know her secrets for living your best life. People admired her. They looked up to her, and she was eating it up, posting multiple times a day, sharing every detail of her supposedly perfect existence. Look at this, Marcus said, scrolling through her posts. She's selling products, running an online business. Look, organic cookies for children with allergies, made with love. Sugar-free juice for diabetic mothers-to-be. She's making real money here. Real money? I felt rage building in my chest, hot and fierce. She's making money, she's running a business, while telling me she can't afford to pay child support for her own son? While we're eating rice and beans every night. And I'm rationing my cancer medication because I can't afford the full prescription. Tommy was looking at the screen too, his face pale. "That's Mom," he whispered. "She looks different. She looks happy." She did look different. Expensive haircut, professional makeup, designer everything. Her skin glowed. Her smile was bright and wide. This wasn't the Jessica I divorced, the angry, resentful woman who'd walked out on us. This was someone who'd completely reinvented herself, who'd left her old life behind like it had never existed. "Let me dig deeper," Marcus said, his jaw tight. I could tell he was angry too. People like this, they always slip up somewhere. Let me see what else I can find. Over the next few days, Marcus tracked Jessica's every move through her social media posts and other digital footprints. The business wasn't in her name, it was registered to her sister Sarah to hide assets from creditors and from me. She was living in a luxury condo in a nice suburb about an hour from the city. She drove a BMW, the same one she posted about on Instagram, calling it her dream car that she'd worked so hard for. She went to expensive spas, ate at trendy restaurants, wore clothes that cost more than our monthly rent. But the worst part? Marcus found reviews from customers who'd bought her products. Angry reviews that had been deleted from her business page, but still existed in other corners of the internet. "I bought the sugar-free juice because I'm diabetic and pregnant," one woman wrote. The label said 0 sugar, natural ingredients only. It spiked my blood sugar immediately. I ended up in the emergency room. When I complained and asked for a refund, she blocked me and refused to respond to my messages. "The organic cookies for kids with eczema are just cheap cookies from the supermarket repackaged in fancy bags," another wrote. I compared them side by side. They're identical. My son had an allergic reaction because they contained ingredients that weren't listed. She's a scam artist and she's going to seriously hurt someone. There were dozens more. People she'd cheated, people she'd lied to, people whose health she'd endangered with her fraudulent products. Marcus even went through her trash one night. It's legal if it's on the curb for collection, and found receipts. Hundreds of dollars at luxury spas. Thousands at high-end hotels for weekend getaways. Designer shopping sprees at department stores. In 1 month alone, she'd spent over $8,000 on herself. That was more than she owed in an entire year of child support. She has the money, Marcus said, showing me the evidence. She's just choosing not to pay. She's hiding it, spending it on herself, pretending to be broke. But she's not broke. She's making good money from this influencer business. But then Marcus found something else, something that made everything even worse if that was possible. In Jessica's trash, he found papers from a wedding planner, receipts for venue deposits, catering quotes, florist invoices. She's getting remarried, Marcus said, showing me the documents. To a doctor. They're planning a big wedding for next spring. And look, he pulled out an ultrasound photo, wrinkled but still clear. She's pregnant. I sat there in Marcus's office, stunned into silence. She's starting over. A new husband, a new baby, a whole new life, like Tommy and I never existed. It gets worse, Marcus said gently. The fiancé doesn't know about Tommy. Look at her social media announcement. He pulled it up on his computer. There was Jessica, glowing and radiant, holding the ultrasound photo. The caption read, "I can't believe it. We're expecting our first baby. I'm going to be a mom. This is a dream come true. First time mom, baby on the way. Blessed. Her first baby. Like Tommy wasn't even born. Like 13 years of his life had been erased with a simple lie. She's erased us, I said, my voice hollow. She's completely erased her past. She's pretending Tommy never happened. Tommy, who'd been silent this whole time, had tears running down his face. She's having another baby? She's going to be a mom to some other kid, but not to me? What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I good enough? You didn't do anything wrong, I said, pulling him into a hug. This isn't about you. This is about her. She's the one who's broken, not you. But I knew my words weren't enough. How could they be? How do you explain to a child that his mother is capable of such cruelty? That's when I knew we had to act. Not just for the money, though. God knows we desperately needed it, but because this wasn't right. Jessica couldn't just abandon one child and start fresh with another, pretending the first one never existed. She couldn't scam people with fake products, hide her income, and live this glamorous lie while her son went without. Someone had to hold her accountable. And if the system wouldn't do it, then I would. Marcus helped me set up a meeting with Jessica. He told her only that I wanted to discuss the child support situation one more time, that I was willing to negotiate. She agreed to meet at a coffee shop in her neighborhood, probably because she thought she could manipulate me one more time, convince me to give up. When I walked in and saw her, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Perfect hair and balayage, highlights that probably cost $500. Perfect outfit designer jeans, cashmere sweater, leather boots, perfect makeup. She looked like she'd never had a worry in her life. She smiled when she saw me, but it was a cold smile. The kind of smile you give to an annoying acquaintance you're trying to be polite to. Brian, she said, not standing up. What's this about? I told you on the phone I don't have money to give you. I sat down across from her, my heart pounding. You know what it's about, Jessica. You owe Tommy over $45,000 in child support. I have a commitment order. You could go to jail. She laughed. Actually laughed like I'd told a joke. Brian, I've told you 100 times. I don't have money. I'm in debt consolidation. What do you want me to do? Pull cash out of thin air? You're pregnant, I said quietly. Her smile faltered for just a second. Just a flicker of surprise, then it was back in place. Congratulations, I continued. I hope you're happy. I hope you and your doctor fiancé have a wonderful life together. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but I could see the panic starting in her eyes. You're getting married. You're running a business selling organic cookies and sugar-free juice. You're living in a luxury condo and driving a BMW. You go to $200 Pilates classes and $500 hair appointments. Don't tell me you don't have money. Her face went pale. How did you? Just love, I said. That's you, isn't it? The influencer with 50,000 followers? Living my best life. That's your whole brand, right? She stood up abruptly, grabbing her designer purse. I don't have to listen to this. If you harass me, I'll call the police. I'll file a restraining order. Go ahead, I said calmly. I have a commitment order signed by a judge. The police would be very interested to talk to you. In fact, I've already contacted them. They know where you live now. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her mind racing, trying to figure out how to get out of this. Then she turned and walked out without another word. 2 days later, the police arrested her at her luxury condo. She spent one night in jail before her fiance posted bail $5,000, which she'd claimed not to have for months of child support, but somehow magically appeared for bail. But she still refused to pay the child support. Instead, she did something I never saw coming. She filed a motion to reduce her child support payments from $500 a month to $300, claiming financial hardship. And then she sued me for defamation. Defamation? I said to my lawyer, reading the papers with shaking hands. What did I defame her about? She claims you're spreading lies about her online, the lawyer explained. She says you've damaged her reputation and her influencer business. She's asking for $50,000 in damages. I was floored. Everything I said is true. She abandoned our son. She owes tens of thousands in child support. How is that defamation? The truth doesn't always matter in defamation cases, the lawyer said grimly. In this state, you can be sued for defamation even if what you said is true, if it damages someone's reputation or business. And here's what I think is really happening. She's trying to scare you into backing off. The legal process is expensive and exhausting. She's hoping you'll give up, drop the child support case, just to avoid the defamation lawsuit. I almost did give up. I was tired, so tired. The cancer treatment had left me weak. The years of struggling had worn me down. The stress was overwhelming. And now Jessica was attacking me legally, trying to turn herself into the victim, trying to make me the bad guy. But then something happened that changed everything. Tommy came home from school one day, and I could tell something was wrong. He looked nervous, almost scared. Dad, he said, I did something. Don't be mad. What did you do, buddy? He pulled out his phone and showed me. He'd posted on social media specifically, as a comment on one of Jessica's influencer posts, where she was announcing her pregnancy. Mom, why are you lying? His comment read, You have a son. Me. You haven't seen me in years. You owe Dad thousands of dollars. Why are you pretending I don't exist? Why are you telling everyone this is your first baby when you already have a child? Is it because you're ashamed of me? My heart stopped. Tommy, you can't she'll use this against us. Her lawyers will say we're harassing her. I don't care, he said, and tears started streaming down his face. She's telling everyone she's going to be a mom for the first time. Like I'm nobody. Like I never existed. I just wanted people to know the truth. I'm tired of being erased, Dad. I'm tired of pretending it doesn't hurt. I pulled him into a hug as he sobbed against my chest. My 12-year-old son, who'd been forced to grow up too fast, who'd carried so much pain for so long. Within hours, Jessica's followers started commenting. At first, they attacked Tommy, accusing him of lying, calling him names, telling him to stop trying to ruin his mother's happiness. But then something shifted. Other people started coming forward, women who'd bought Jessica's products and been scammed, people who'd worked with her and been cheated. She sold me organic cookies for my son who has severe allergies, one woman wrote. I paid $45 for a small box. They were just cheap store-bought cookies repackaged in fancy bags. My son had a reaction. When I complained, she blocked me and kept my money. I'm a diabetic pregnant woman. Her sugar-free juice sent my blood sugar through the roof. I tested it. It's full of sugar and artificial sweeteners. I could have ended up in the hospital. She's a fraud and she's dangerous. More and more people share their stories. Screenshots of blocked messages, photos comparing her handmade organic cookies to the cheap supermarket brand they actually came from. Lab results showing her sugar-free juice was anything but. Jessica's carefully constructed influencer persona started crumbling in real time. Her follower count dropped. Brands that had been working with her started distancing themselves. People were angry not just about the child support, but about the fraud, the lies, the way she'd endangered people's health for profit. Then Marcus called me, his voice excited. Brian, I think we have her. Remember those customer complaints? I collected evidence. Real evidence. The cookies she was selling as handmade organic, they're from a bulk supermarket brand. I bought both products and had them tested identical ingredients, identical composition. The juice? Full of artificial sweeteners and sugar, despite being marketed as all natural sugar free. She's been committing consumer fraud on a large scale. Can we use that? I asked, my heart starting to race. We can report it to the Consumer Protection Agency and the FDA. But more importantly, we can prove she has income, significant income, which means she can pay child support. She's just choosing not to. And if she's committing fraud, her fiancé might want to know what kind of person he's marrying. I thought about it for a long moment. This was the leverage we needed. But I had to be smart about it. I contacted Jessica one more time. We agreed to meet in a public parking lot neutral ground. This time I brought Tommy with me. He'd asked to come and I thought he deserved to face her, to see this through. When she pulled up in her BMW, I could see the anger on her face even from a distance. She got out of the car, her pregnant belly just starting to show under her expensive maternity clothes. When she saw Tommy, something flickered in her eyes. Guilt, shame, fear, I couldn't tell. Jessica, I said, keeping my voice calm and steady, I'm giving you one chance. One final chance to do the right thing. Pay the back child support in full. Drop the defamation lawsuit. And we'll walk away. You can go live your life, marry your doctor, have your new baby. We won't interfere. I can't, she said, but her voice was less confident now. I don't have that kind of money. Yes, you do. We have evidence of your business, your income, everything. Bank statements from your sister's account, the one you're using to hide money. Receipts for all your purchases. Tax returns that don't match what you told the court. And we have evidence that you're selling fraudulent products. Dangerous products that have hurt people. Her face went pale. You're bluffing. I'm not. And if you don't settle this right now, I'm going to report you to the Consumer Protection Agency, the FDA, and the IRS. Your new fiancé will find out about Tommy, I'll make sure of it. Your followers will find out you're a fraud. Everything you've built, this whole new life you've created, it will all collapse. Is that what you want? She stared at me, her hands shaking. You wouldn't dare. You're trying to intimidate me. This is extortion. No, I said quietly. This is consequences. For the first time in your life, you're facing actual consequences for your actions. You've spent years lying to everyone, including yourself, but you can't run from this anymore. Pay what you owe or face what's coming. Tommy spoke up then, his voice steady despite the tears on his cheeks. You're going to have another baby. That baby is going to be my half-brother or half-sister. Don't you want to be a good mother to them? How can you do that if you abandon me? What kind of person does that make you? I saw Jessica's mask finally crack. Real tears, not the performative kind she showed on social media, welled up in her eyes and spilled down her carefully made-up face. I was so young, she whispered. I didn't want to be a mother. I felt trapped. I felt like my whole life was over before it even started. You were young, I interrupted. But you're not anymore. You're almost 40 years old. And you made choices. You have to own them. You have a son standing right here in front of you. A son who needed you and you weren't there. You can't change the past, but you can do the right thing now. Today, right now. She looked at Tommy for a long moment. I could see the war happening inside her, the temptation to keep lying, keep running, keep pretending. But Tommy just stood there, looking at her with those eyes that were so much like mine, waiting. Finally, she pulled out her phone. I'll have my lawyer contact yours, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll pay it. All of it. And I'll drop the lawsuit. Today, I said. We settle this today, or the offer's off the table. 2 days later, Jessica's lawyer called mine. She'd agreed to pay the full back child support in one lump sum, $45,000. She'd drop her request to reduce monthly payments and would continue paying $500 a month until Tommy turned 18. And she'd withdraw the defamation lawsuit with prejudice, meaning she could never file it again. The money was transferred that afternoon. Why'd she cave so fast? I asked Marcus when I called to thank him. Her fiance found out, he said. One of her followers, someone who'd been scammed by her products, sent him Tommy's comment and all the evidence about the fraudulent products. He confronted her. The wedding's off. He said he couldn't marry someone who would abandon their own child and endanger other people's children for profit. I should have felt triumphant, victorious. She'd lost everything, her fiancé, her business reputation, her carefully constructed life. But instead, I just felt sad. Sad for Tommy, who'd never have a real relationship with his mother. Sad for the baby she was carrying, who'd be born into this mess. Even sad for Jessica herself, who'd ruined so many lives, including her own, because she couldn't face her responsibilities. But I also felt something else relief. Deep, overwhelming relief. After 8 years of struggling, of wondering how I'd pay for Tommy's needs, of fighting through cancer treatment while drowning in debt, I finally had some financial breathing room. More importantly, Tommy had something money couldn't buy. He'd stood up for himself. He'd told his truth, and he'd learned that sometimes, if you fight hard enough and long enough, justice does prevail. It doesn't always happen, and it's not always fair. But sometimes the good guys win. Last week, Tommy turned 13. We celebrated with a small party, just family and a few close friends from school. Nothing fancy, but it felt good. Normal. Happy. Tommy wanted to use some of the child support money to join the school's robotics club, which he'd always been interested in, but we couldn't afford before. The club fees were $300, plus costs for supplies and competition travel. In the past, I would have had to say no, but now I could say yes. Dad, he said to me that night, after everyone had gone home and we were cleaning up, can I ask you something? Of course, buddy. Anything. He was quiet for a moment, arranging paper plates in the trash. Do you think Mom will ever want to see me? It's the question I'd been dreading for years. The question I'd avoided, deflected, talked around. But Tommy was 13 now, old enough for the truth. He deserved the truth. I don't know, Tommy, I said honestly. Maybe someday she'll realize what she's missing. Maybe when her new baby's born, she'll understand what she threw away with you. But even if she doesn't, even if she never comes back, it doesn't mean anything about you. Do you understand that? He nodded slowly, but I could see he didn't quite believe it. Listen to me, I said, sitting down next to him. You are smart, kind, brave, and good. You stood up for yourself when it mattered. You fought for what was right. Those are the things that define who you are not, whether your mother is capable of being a mother. Her inability to love you the way you deserve, that's her failure, not yours. That's her loss, not yours. But it hurts, he whispered. It still hurts, Dad. I know it does. And it's okay to hurt. You can feel sad about it, angry about it, confused about it. All of those feelings are valid. And if she ever does come back, if she ever wants to make things right, we'll deal with it then. But for now, we have each other. And that's enough, isn't it? He hugged me tight the way he used to when he was little. More than enough. We sat there for a while, father and son, in our small apartment that was finally warm in the winter, with a refrigerator that was finally full, with bills that were finally getting paid. We'd made it through. We'd survived. People sometimes ask me if I regret marrying Jessica, if I wish I could go back and change everything. The truth is, I can't regret it because if I'd never married her, I wouldn't have Tommy. And Tommy's the best thing that ever happened to me. He's smart, compassionate, resilient. He's grown into an amazing young man despite everything he's been through. Maybe even because of it. Jessica tried to erase her past, to pretend Tommy never existed so she could start fresh with a clean slate. But you can't outrun your choices forever. Eventually, they catch up with you. Eventually, you have to face what you've done. Her influencer accounts are gone now, deleted after the flood of negative comments, and the revelation of her fraud. Her business is shut down. Her fiance left her. Her carefully constructed new life fell apart in a matter of days. I heard through the grapevine that she had her baby a girl. I hope for that little girl's sake that Jessica learns something from all this. I hope she's a better mother this time. I hope she doesn't make the same mistakes. But that's not my concern anymore. My concern is Tommy, and Tommy's thriving. He made the robotics team. He's getting straight A's in school. He has friends, real friends, who make him laugh and invite him to hang out on weekends. He's learning to trust again, to hope again, to believe that good things can happen. And most importantly, he really knows, deep in his bones, that I will always be there for him, no matter what. Through cancer, through poverty, through everything life throws at us, I will always show up. I will always fight for him. I will always be his dad. That's the thing about being a parent, a real parent. It's not about the good times when everything's easy. It's not about Instagram posts and picture perfect moments. It's about showing up day after day, even when things are hard, especially when things are hard. It's about being there at 2 in the morning when they're sick with fever. It's about working 2 jobs so they can play Little League. It's about going through cancer treatment and still making sure they have dinner and help with their homework. It's about standing up to your ex-wife in a parking lot and demanding they face their responsibilities. It's about love, real love, the kind that doesn't quit when things get difficult, the kind that doesn't run away when life gets messy. Jessica never learned that. Maybe she never will. But Tommy's learning it from me every single day. And when he grows up and has his own children someday, he'll know how to be a parent, a real parent, because he had one. As I watch him now, working on his robotics project at our kitchen table, his face scrunched up in concentration, I think about how far we've come. From that night 8 years ago when I first walked into Marcus's office with a broken heart and a dying marriage. From the years of struggle and sickness and poverty, from the despair of thinking we'd never get justice, never get what we were owed. We made it. We're here. We're okay. More than okay. We're happy. And that's something Jessica, with all her designer clothes and luxury condos and Instagram followers, never achieved. She was always chasing happiness, always thinking it was just around the corner, always believing that more money, more attention, more admiration would finally make her feel whole. But happiness doesn't come from those things. It comes from love, from connection, from knowing you matter to someone and they matter to you, from being willing to sacrifice, to struggle, to fight for the people you love. Tommy looks up from his project and grins at me. Dad, come look at this. I got it working. I walk over and examine his robot, which is now moving across the table exactly the way he programmed it to. That's amazing, buddy. You're really good at this. Thanks. I think I want to be an engineer when I grow up. Like maybe robotics engineering or something. You can be anything you want, I tell him. The sky's the limit. He smiles, and in that smile I see the future. A good future. A bright future. A future where Tommy succeeds, not in spite of what his mother did to him, but because he learned from it. He learned what not to do. He learned the value of showing up, of keeping your promises, of honoring your responsibilities. Those are lessons that will serve him well for the rest of his life.